Billionaire's twins born paralyzed and silent. What the Maid revealed changed everything forever. The sun bathed the Sinclair mansion in golden light, making it look like something out of a fairy tale. Emma Sinclair, the 32-year-old tech mogul, had just welcomed her twins. The world outside rejoiced. Billionaire's twins born, what a blessing. But behind the glamorous headlines was a reality no one could predict. The boys, Ethan and Liam, were paralyzed and unable to speak. Their laughter, the sound that should fill the halls with joy, was replaced by a suffocating silence. Emma cradled her boys, tears streaming down her cheeks. The air felt heavy within the grandeur of the mansion. She was supposed to be the poster child of success, yet here she was, trapped under the weight of societal expectations. Jason stood nearby, his face a mask of confusion and despair. The couple drifted farther apart in their grief, as days turned into a routine of appointments, therapies, and an overwhelming sense of inadequacy. Maria, their maid, observed quietly from the sidelines of their opulent life. She lived in a modest apartment in a neighboring town, struggling to provide for her daughter, but she understood hardship. She often caught glimpses of the Sinclairs' cracks, the tension during dinner, the quick glances that said 1,000 words, and the frail atmosphere that punctured their perfection. She had witnessed privilege, but this was pain that luxury couldn't hide. Days turned to weeks, and Maria began to understand the weight on their shoulders. One evening, as she cleaned the cozy family room filled with photos of smiling faces, she noticed Emma staring blankly at the walls, lost in thought. Her heart ached for the woman, who, despite her wealth, seemed so profoundly alone. Maria hesitated, but finally mustered the courage to approach them. "You know, there are community resources and support groups that could help," she began cautiously. But as she spoke, she could see doubt flicker in Emma's eyes. Did someone like her, a maid, have any idea about their struggle? Would her humble insights even matter? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But Maria's presence began to crack the walls that had formed around the Sinclairs. They started having deeper conversations. The distance between them evaporated with every shared story, every laugh, every tear. As they acknowledged their struggles, they slowly began to rebuild, forging a strange bond over mutual pain and resilience. But just as they were finding their rhythm, an unexpected health scare sent shockwaves through the house. The twins' condition worsened unexpectedly, and the family's fragile hopes seemed to shatter overnight. Would they come to terms with their new reality, or would the weight of it all push them apart forever? In an instant, they were left questioning everything they thought they knew about love, family, and the burdens they each carried. What would it take to embrace the beauty of authenticity over the illusion of perfection? The morning came slowly, heavy with uncertainty. Emma woke up to the piercing sound of the monitor by the twins' cribs. Ethan's heart rate fluctuated. A knot formed in her stomach. She rushed to their room, her heart pounding. Jason was already there, his brow creased in worry. "I called the doctor," he said, his voice shaky. The gravity of those words settled in the air, thick and suffocating. Emma held Ethan tightly. "Please, not my baby," she whispered. But deep down, she felt the shadow of dread creeping closer, warping every thought, every hope. It wasn't fair. They had already lost so much. Maria peeked in just then, her heart breaking for the family she had grown to care for. "What's happening?" she asked softly. They didn't have to say it out loud, but the fear was palpable. The twins, the purest joys of their lives, might be slipping away. "His heart," Jason managed, his voice barely above a whisper. In that moment, the walls of the mansion felt like they were closing in on all of them. Emma shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. Maria stepped closer, the tension spilling from her own fears. "You know," she started, hesitating only a moment, "I've seen families face challenges, and I've seen them come through." Emma's gaze was fierce. "You can't understand," she snapped, her emotions stacking high like waves crashing against the shore. Her vulnerability breakdanced with anger. It hurt to think that her struggles could ever be compared to what Maria faced. But Maria stood firm. "I know what it feels like to fight. You may not see it, but even within pain, there's hope. There's strength together." Somehow, at that moment, Maria's words broke through Emma's despair. She took a deep breath, letting Maria's presence ground her. "What do we do?" she asked, a flicker of trust shining through her tears.
Let's focus on what they need, Maria urged, her voice low and steady. Jason, still reeling from the confrontation, turned to face Emma. Maybe what's next isn't about perfect solutions. Maybe it's about how we live with the uncertainty. It was a small spark, a glimmer of truth. The shadows surrounding the family were daunting, but they began to see a path through it together.
The twins might not have the lives they envisioned, but they still had each other. As the day wore on, they prepared for the doctor's visit. Instead of succumbing to grief, they rallied together. They shared memories of the twins, how Ethan loved the way the sun peeked through the curtains in the morning, how Liam would curl his small hands around theirs and grasp tightly. Hours later, at the hospital, they sat in a sterile waiting room, the clock ticking loudly against the silence. Time felt frozen, yet hope danced just beyond their reach. When the doctor finally entered, his expression was serious but calm. "We need to discuss their options," he began. Anxiety surged through the air. Emma squeezed Jason's hand, seeking strength in the familiar touch. But before the doctor could finish, another nurse rushed in, breathless. "We have an update. There's been some improvement." Their eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and cautious optimism. It was a lifeline, a chance. In that moment, the stars flickered and shimmered with a newfound light. The weight of uncertainty lingered, but amid it, they caught a glimpse of potential. "Whatever happens," Emma vowed, her voice tremulous yet firm, "we face it together." As they absorbed the news, a realization dawned. The heart of a family wasn't defined by ease, but by resilience. Each small heartbeat formed the rhythm of hope. And just like that, their lives began to unearth deeper truths, locked away beneath the layers of their previous understanding. What would this newfound understanding reveal at their next crossroads? Would they embrace the challenge or shy away from the struggle ahead? Only time would tell. The minutes crawled by in the hospital waiting room. While the news of improvement buzzed in their ears, doubt still lingered like a thick fog. Emma turned her gaze toward the far wall, where the lifeless clock hung, ticking away moments they wanted to reclaim. She felt Jason's hand tighten around hers, steadying her heart alongside his. But a storm brewed beneath her calm exterior, an insatiable need for reassurance. Jason broke the silence first, his voice trying to sound bold, but soft with lingering uncertainty. "Do you think it's really a good sign?" Emma searched his eyes, looking for answers that she knew he couldn't provide. "I have to believe it is. We need to hold on to this." Maria, watching them both, sensed that hope wasn't the only thing at play. "I have seen that look before," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "It's the fear of losing more. It's normal. But right now, our boys are here, and they need us to stay strong." Feeling the warmth of those words pushing against her fear, Emma drew a breath, her heart echoing Maria's sentiment. "You're right. We can't let our own worries overshadow what they need." As if in response, the doctor returned, his expression slightly less grave than before. "There's a chance that Ethan's heart is beginning to stabilize. We'll need to run more tests, but he is showing signs of improvement." The relief washed over them like a long-awaited rain after a drought. Emma squeezed Jason's hand harder, as if afraid it would slip away again if she let go. They didn't have all the answers, but they at least had this moment to breathe, to hope. "Can we see them?" Emma asked, her voice firmer now, despite her heart still racing. "Of course, but it's important to manage expectations. They're still quite fragile," the doctor replied cautiously, yet he led them through the dimly lit halls toward the twins' room. As they entered, the sight of their boys, Ethan wrapped in machines, attached to monitors with soft beeping sounds, and Liam nestled close, struck Emma like a physical blow. Her heart twisted in her chest, overflowing with love and fear. She rushed to Ethan's side, her fingers brushing against his tiny hand, still warm. The contrast sent shivers through her. He was here, but the fight was far from over. The nurse entered, her demeanor calming. "Just talk to them. They may not respond the way we expect, but they can hear you." Jason, after a moment's hesitation, began recounting a silly story from when they had first learned to balance the twins in their arms. The story unfolded, mingling with the beeping monitors, bringing genuine smiles to Emma's face, despite the weight of the moment. Liam's little mouth twitched. Was that a grin, or was it just her wishful thinking? "Did you see that?" Emma exclaimed, a thread of disbelief and joy woven together. "Maybe he knows we're here," Jason whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. The air shifted, becoming electric with hope,
as they took turns speaking to their boys, allowing their laughter and love to fill the sterile room. Each word knit together a fragile bond, stronger than any uncertainty. But as minutes melted into hours, the fatigue began to settle in. The intensity of their hope forced them to confront worries they were still hiding. Emma leaned back in her chair, the exhaustion deepening her gaze, when Maria gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're doing so much better than you realize. Don't forget how powerful your love is. It can change things, even now," Maria said softly. Emma nodded, grateful for the support. But shadows of doubt still demanded attention. Could they truly accept the twists and turns that lay ahead? Just then, another doctor entered, looking both serious and hopeful. "I need to discuss further options with you," he said, gesturing toward a quiet corner of the room. Emma felt her heart drop again. Were they truly ready for what was to come? As uncertainty edged back into the picture, she couldn't help but wonder what decisions loomed ahead. Was this another challenge to face, or a fork in the road of their family's fate? Time hung heavy as they prepared to listen. Would they uncover a path to light, or be encased in shadows once again? The doctor's gaze held the weight of obligation.
Emma held onto Jason's hand tighter than ever as they followed him to the corner, anxiety twisting in her stomach. Every step toward the quiet nook felt like stepping into uncharted territory, the air thick with unspoken words. "Let's sit," the doctor gestured to the chairs. They all took their places, and the world outside faded away as the urgent reality stepped closer. Without delay, the doctor leaned forward, hands clasped together. "There's a treatment option we need to discuss." Jason looked at Emma, his eyebrows knitting together. "What kind of treatment?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The doctor took a moment, collecting his thoughts. "It's still experimental, but shows promising results, especially for infants with conditions similar to Ethan and Liam." Hope flickered at the edges of Emma's heart like a moth drawn to a flame. "What's involved?" "It requires several procedures, possibly intensive care, and constant monitoring. There are risks, but, Emma interrupted, suddenly feeling desperate. "But there's also a chance it could significantly improve their quality of life," he continued, his eyes fixed on theirs. "We can't make promises, but research suggests that early intervention may yield positive results." Jason exhaled deeply. "What do we have to decide now? How soon do we need to act?" "There's urgency. If you want to consider this option, we need your consent today. The sooner we begin the process, the better." Emma's pulse raced. Was this the answer they had been waiting for, or was it another pitfall? Would they be thrust into a series of complexities that were beyond their comprehension? She fought to keep her voice steady. What does that mean for their future? And for us? Potentially less pain. More communication. It's about letting them have a chance at life. A fuller life, the doctor replied softly. Jason shifted in his chair, his gaze drifting to the floor. Emma watched him, taking in the internal battle that coursed through him. They were standing at a precipice. One choice could lead them one way, another in an entirely different direction. "Emma," Jason finally spoke, "this is so much to take in. What if we say yes, but it doesn't work? What if we say no and we miss out on something amazing?" She felt tears pooling in her eyes. "I can't bear the thought of either possibility. But what if they could really get better? What if they could talk and run and laugh? Do you think they'd even want this?" Jason asked, his voice barely above a murmur. At that moment, their own fears collided violently with their hopes. Emma's heart tightened. Would their boys want to endure the pain of a long, uncertain journey? Could they embrace the unknown, or would it be too much? This choice is about them. It's about what kind of life we want for them. The silence stretched, heavy with unuttered fears and painful possibilities. As Emma locked eyes with Jason, feeling the unbreakable bond of love, yet unsettled by the weight of responsibility, she understood this was not just a decision. It was their first major step towards a path that could entwine their lives forever. Suddenly, a distant beeping interrupted their thoughts. They turned in unison, half expecting to see the doctor still standing there, but he was gone, leaving only lingering uncertainty. With a sharp intake of breath, Emma's mind raced with the enormity of what lay ahead. "What if we lose our chance?" she whispered, the fear creeping back in like a shadow. Jason reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. "Whatever we choose, we'll face it together," he promised, although uncertainty clouded his eyes. Just then, a new nurse entered with urgency, a smile reaching her eyes despite the weight in the room. "Ethan is doing well. He's responding to stimuli. His doctors are thrilled with his progress." Emma felt a flicker of hope reignite, battling against her doubts. Could it be a sign of what was to come?
As the nurse's words settled, she realized they had to decide soon. "Then let's make the best choice for them," Jason said, stealing a glance at the door, already imagining the possibilities ahead. But even as determination brewed, Emma felt a knot of anxiety. Would this unfold into the miracle they dreamed of, or push them into uncharted darkness? The question echoed in her heart. As they prepared for the decision of a lifetime, the stakes were higher than ever. What would they choose? And would they be ready for whatever awaited them on the horizon? Emma's heart raced as she waited for the nurse to return. The air grew heavy with the weight of the possibilities she and Jason now faced. They were standing on the brink of something monumental, a decision that could forever alter the lives of Ethan and Liam. "I can't get my head around it," Jason admitted, running a hand through his hair, a gesture she recognized as frustration creeping in. "What if we make the wrong choice? What if we dive headfirst into something we can't handle?" Emma could feel the tremor in her own voice as she spoke. "But what if this is everything? A chance for our boys to really be?" Jason met her gaze, the tension crackling between them like electricity. "I hear you, Em, but it's not just us. It's about them. They deserve the best, but we have to be careful. We can't rush into this." The nurse returned, clipboard in hand, her demeanor still bright. "I just got an update on Ethan. He's showing improvement. They were able to see some tiny reactions to touch and sound." Emma's heart did a little flip. This was good news, wasn't it? But doubts tugged at her edges. What if it's just temporary? She asked almost to herself. "It's a positive sign," the nurse reassured. "These early signs of responsiveness are crucial. They can point to better outcomes and treatment options."
Jason squeezed Emma's hand again, grounding her. "Maybe we should talk to Ethan's doctor again. They might have more insights after seeing the updates from his tests." "Right," Emma nodded, finding a flicker of resolve push through her worry. "Let's do that." As they stepped away from the chairs, Emma felt the weight of their decision looming larger with each step. All around her, the hospital buzzed, families waiting, doctors and nurses moving with purpose. Yet, in this hectic world, it felt as if they were encased in their own bubble filled with uncertainty. In a quiet moment, she turned to Jason. "What if we regret not trying? What if we deny them this chance and it's what they needed?" "Regret is a big part of this," he said softly, "but so is hope. It's just terrifying to face." They paused at the door leading to the pediatric ward, and Emma's stomach twisted again. She remembered the days spent in the dark corners of her mind, contemplating futures painted in shadows of grief and despair. Now they stood in front of a potential light. With a deep breath, Emma opened the door and stepped in. The ward was bright, filled with pastel colors and younger faces. Machines hummed softly around them. She felt it all, the hope, the desperation, the heavy weight of love pulling her chest tight. She spotted Ethan, resting comfortably, a small measure of life evident in his fragile form. The machines beeped steadily, offering a pulse that echoed reassurance. Jason squeezed her hand once more before they moved closer to the little boy. "Hey, buddy," Emma whispered, leaning close. "We're fighting for you. Just hang in there." As she spoke, trembling warmth spread through her, realizing how much strength she drew from him and his brother too. Just then, a doctor entered, looking at them with determined eyes. "I heard you want to discuss the next steps for Ethan?" Emma felt her heart race again, a mix of anxiety and hope colliding. As Jason and the doctor began to talk, Emma's resolve solidified. Whatever happened, they would forge ahead. With each word spoken, it felt like the path to a decision was opening, a path filled with the unknown, but also the potential for miracles. As discussions and plans swirled in her mind, Emma silently vowed to banish doubt in favor of courage. It was time to take a step into the unknown. But even as they moved forward, an eerie thought pierced her mind. What if those tiny glimmers of hope were just the calm before a storm? The air, crackling with possibility, began to shift again. Would they be able to handle whatever lay ahead? The doctor's voice broke through the haze of Emma's thoughts, drawing her back to the present. "Thank you for your patience. We believe that Ethan is responding better than we initially anticipated."
We have a few avenues we can explore for treatment and rehabilitation. Emma leaned in, her heart thumping heavily in her chest. What kind of treatments, and how soon can they start?
Immediately, if you're on board. The sooner we can intervene, the better, he explained, flipping through Ethan's chart. We can start physical therapy to stimulate his muscles and begin conducting assessments that could lead us to targeted therapies for his specific condition. Can you promise us it will help? Jason's voice was strained, uncertainty lining his features. The doctor paused, his earnest expression softening. I cannot promise anything in medicine, but I can tell you this. Early intervention is key. It provides the best chance for improvement. Emma's mind raced. She had imagined treatments and therapies, but hearing it laid out like this was different. Afraid to hope, she took a deep breath. What do we need to do? I'll get the orders in place. You just need to give consent, and I'll be with you every step of the way, the doctor assured them. Jason's grip tightened on her hand, squeezing until it felt almost painful. Emma looked into his eyes, searching for the same glimmer of resolve she was starting to feel inside. It was there. It was hesitant, but it was growing brighter. I can't believe we're really going to do this, Emma breathed, almost in disbelief. This could really change everything for Ethan, for all of us. Look, Jason said, focusing intently on her. We have to keep each other grounded. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. If it's good, we celebrate. If it's bad, we grieve. But we won't do it alone. Yes, together. Emma could feel hope unfurling within her like a fragile flower blooming under the sun. They would take this leap of faith, even if the outcome remained a mystery. That decision ignited a fire, pushing aside the shadows of doubt gnawing at her soul. She was ready to fight for her son, for the possibility of a future she had thought lost. Moments later, the doctor returned with the consent forms, and the atmosphere around them changed subtly. The weight of their decision was now tangible, wrapping around them. It was a moment of commitment, a pact forged them love and desperation. As they signed the forms, an unexpected sound erupted in the ward, drawing everyone's attention. A soft yet distinct cry echoed through the sterile air. Emma's heart dropped, the sound striking a chord deep within her, resonating with fears she had tucked away. She turned quickly to the source, the babies in the crib nearby. An alarm had gone off, and nurses rushed in. For a brief moment, time seemed to freeze as uncertainty gripped her heart once more. Will Ethan be okay? A panic surged in her chest, tightening every muscle. Jason's arms slid around her, squeezing tightly. He's going to be okay. We're doing this. We've made our choice. But deep within, Emma couldn't shake the realization that the world around them was still in chaos, each cry a reminder that nothing was ever guaranteed. As the commotion calmed around them, Emma wondered how many more storms lay ahead. Would they have the strength to weather them all? She looked into Jason's eyes, searching for the same unwavering courage that had bolstered her since they entered this whirlwind. He smiled back, but doubt danced behind his gaze. In that instant, Emma knew they were on the edge of something undeniable. They were embarking on a journey that could either heal or break them, and deep down inside, something urged her to brace herself for the unexpected twists that life had yet to unveil. As Ethan's machines hummed a soft rhythm, she closed her eyes tightly, harmonizing her heartbeat with their pulse, hope clashing with dread. This was just the beginning. What if the next revelation would bring them to an unspeakable truth about their boys, a truth that could change everything once again? The next few days blurred into one long emotional stretch of time. Emma and Jason found themselves in the hospital almost every hour, clinging to hope amid the sterile scents and incessant beeping of the machines. The physical therapy sessions began, and with each minute they spent watching Ethan's small body struggle against gravity and fatigue, Emma felt a mix of pride and fear. The therapists were patient and encouraging, their voices warm with encouragement. "You see, he's responding to the touch," one nurse exclaimed as Ethan flexed his fingers slightly. Emma and Jason clapped, their hearts soaring for just a moment, only to have doubts creep in once more. Would these small victories mean anything in the long run? As days passed, the reality of sitting in waiting rooms wore on them. Emma found herself looking around at the families who shared the same silent horrors, faces etched with worry. Connections formed in those shared glances, who looked away first, who fought back tears. It was a fragile bond of understanding born from shared suffering.
Then, one evening, as they settled into the drab waiting area after a particularly taxing day, Emma overheard a group of nurses discussing a patient in one of the other wards. "I hear their situation is more complicated than it looks," one whispered. "The little one, born healthy, but something dark is hiding underneath." Curiosity piqued. Emma's heart raced. She turned to Jason. "Do you think?" He shrugged, his expression neutral. "It's tough to say. We can't jump to conclusions just yet." But a tightness in Emma's chest told her that she couldn't shake the feeling of foreboding. What details about these other children were they keeping hidden? What if Ethan was just one piece of a much larger puzzle, one they didn't understand yet? One morning, Emma, exhausted after a sleepless night, decided to take a different route to Ethan's room. The hallway felt empty, a chill creeping through. As she turned a corner, she spotted a door ajar, a faint light spilling out. Against her better judgment, she edged closer. Voices inside made her stop short. "You can't tell them everything," a familiar voice said.
Emma's breath caught. It was the doctor's voice. They're not ready for that. Emma leaned closer, her heart thumping viciously. She barely registered the muffled responses that followed. The air felt thick, charged. Did this have something to do with Ethan? Something they weren't telling her? Fighting the urge to push the door open, she took a step back. Jason was waiting for her. She turned to him, stepping back with urgency. "Did you hear that?" "What?" Jason asked, brow furrowing. She took a shaky breath. I think something is wrong. I heard the doctor talking. They aren't telling us everything. About Ethan, or maybe about the other kids." Jason went pale, uncertainty mingling with fear. "What do you think they could be hiding?" "I don't know, but we need to find out." They shared a charged silence, the weight of unspoken thoughts hanging over them. Emma felt a perilous mix of determination and dread wash over her. Jason squeezed her hand, grounding her. "Whatever it is, we will face it together. We have to be ready." Emma nodded, her heart racing. What had she stumbled upon, and what new truths lay waiting in the shadows of the hospital? As they walked towards Ethan's room, uncertainty cloaked them, growing heavier with each step. Back in the room, a small glimmer of light caught Ethan's eye. For the moment, he seemed content, unaware of the storm brewing around him. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the winds were changing. What was the doctor hiding, and how would it affect their family's future? The next morning came with a heavy fog hanging in the air. Emma rose early, a restless sleep full of fragmented dreams weighing on her mind. She glanced at Jason, still asleep beside her, his brow furrowing, seemingly lost in his own worries. She felt a powerful urge to shake him awake, to share her fears, but she held back. Over the past few days, they had leaned on each other with outspoken words, their bond deepening under the strain. As she got ready, Emma noticed a worn teddy bear sitting on the dresser. It had belonged to Ethan, a gift from Jason on his first birthday. She picked it up, running her fingers through its soft fibers. A wave of nostalgia washed over her. How simple life had seemed then. Joy wrapped around their family in a warm hug. Now it felt like those moments were buried under layers of uncertainty and pain. Emma took a deep breath, willing herself to stay strong. She needed clarity. They both did. Once they arrived at the hospital, Emma's mind raced. They headed straight to Ethan's room, but today felt different. The air was heavier, more charged. When they entered, the usual chatter of nurses was absent. Only a low hum of machines punctuated the silence, making her heart race even faster. Ethan lay in his bed, looking fragile yet resilient. Emma couldn't help but smile at the way he still managed to wiggle his fingers, the small triumphs sustaining them. She turned to Jason, who stood close, scanning the room as if anticipating something. "Something isn't right," he murmured, confirming Emma's instincts. The door creaked open, and in walked the doctor. His face wore an unreadable expression. Emma's heart sank. There was something in his demeanor that suggested more than just routine news. "Good morning," he said quietly, his eyes meeting theirs. "I'd like to talk to you both." Emma and Jason exchanged a glance before nodding. They'd much rather face this turbulence together rather than alone. "Is everything okay with Ethan?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The doctor hesitated, looking down at the floor as if searching for the right words. "I am afraid we've reached a point where we need to discuss Ethan's prognosis." The word clanged in Emma's ears, echoing the fear she had tried to suppress. "Prognosis?" she repeated, trying to understand the implications. "There are complications that have arisen, symptoms we didn't anticipate."
He paused again, taking a deep breath. The initial tests we conducted revealed something much more complicated than we first thought. Jason's grip on her hand tightened, and Emma felt her body go cold. What does this mean? Are we running out of time? The doctor finally lifted his gaze, the weight of reality pooling in his eyes. There are decisions to be made, options we need to discuss. Just then, Ethan opened his eyes wide, as if sensing the gravity of the conversation. He looked from Emma to Jason, his gaze innocent yet full of unspoken questions. Emma felt a lump rise in her throat, the need to protect him overwhelming. When you say decisions, what are you referring to? With a heavy heart, the doctor began to explain, words cascading like stones into a deep well, each one carrying the weight of their worst fears. Emma felt her breath hitch as the walls of their reality began to close in. The longer he spoke, the sharper the edges of their new reality became. Was it really possible their sweet boy could face something darker than they imagined? As fear and despair wrapped around Emma, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something she wasn't prepared for. The conversations around options opened up a Pandora's box of emotional turmoil. Jason's face turned pale, processing the heavy implications. As the doctor continued to speak, Emma craved one thing above all: some shred of hope. When the door swung open and an urgent voice called out to them, distracting her from the conversation, Emma felt her heart jump. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, you need to hear this." What could possibly follow? Emma and Jason turned to find the source, a whirlwind of uncertainty engulfing them once more. What did they need to hear, and how would it change everything for Ethan? Emma turned, her heart racing as she locked eyes with a nurse bursting into the room, a clipboard in hand and excitement sparking in her gaze.
The urgency was palpable, and in that instant, Emma sensed a flicker of hope, a candle's glow in a cavern of despair. "Please, what is it?" Jason asked, the tension in his voice revealing his desperation. The nurse took a moment to catch her breath, her expression shifting from urgency to a more measured calm. "I'm not sure if you're aware, but there has been a breakthrough with a new treatment protocol. It's experimental, but it may be a viable option for Ethan's condition." Eva's stomach churned with a mix of skepticism and cautious optimism. Would this be another promise that led them to heartbreak, or could this truly be the ray of light they had been yearning for? "What kind of treatment are we talking about? What does it involve?" Emma pressed, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions roiling inside her. The nurse stepped closer, her voice dropping to a softer tone. "It's a cutting-edge procedure that's been showing promising results in similar cases. It's still in trial stages, but several families have reported significant improvements. I can arrange for you to meet with the lead specialist. They'll provide you and Jason all the information you need." Jason tightened his grip on Emma's hand, and she could feel the weight of their united hope pushing against the fear that threatened to consume them. "We need to know everything. If there's a chance, we'll take it," he said, determination edging his tone. The nurse nodded, a small smile creeping across her face. "I'll set up the consultation immediately. This could change everything for Ethan." As she left the room, Emma turned back to Ethan. He lay there, innocence radiating from his soft features, completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. She brushed her fingers lightly across his forehead, willing him to absorb all the love and hope they had for him. Her chest tightened as a tear slipped down her cheek. "Kiddo, I know this is hard for you, but we are going to keep fighting for you," she whispered, her heart aching with both fear and fierce resolve. The prospect of the consultation loomed large in her mind, but so did the question that lingered unspoken. What if this didn't work? Jason interrupted her thoughts. "Emma, we have to prepare for anything that comes next. If this treatment is an option, I need you to promise me we won't get our hopes too high." She nodded slowly. "I know, but it's all we have right now. I can't help but feel, maybe this is the chance we've been waiting for." Their gazes locked, sharing a moment of unfiltered vulnerability. Each felt the painful fracture of their reality, but within that crack was a spark of flickering hope. Before they could discuss it further, the doctor returned, holding a file that held their future. He sat down across from them, and Emma's heart raced, anticipating answers but fearing the unknown. "Thank you for your patience." "Let's talk about the options." As he began to speak, Emma's focus drifted momentarily to Ethan, who had fallen asleep again, blissfully unaware. A bolt of determination surged through her. She would do everything to protect him and find that light, even if it lurked in the shadows of uncertainty. They needed to know what come next, what choices lay before them that could shape their family's destiny. What would they learn? And more importantly, would this treatment offer a real chance at a happier future? With the weight of those questions heavy in her heart, Emma leaned closer to Jason, ready to face whatever news awaited them. But even as they prepared to dive deeper into their options, she couldn't shake off the feeling that this revelation could change everything yet again. Days turned into weeks, stretching every moment into a tapestry of hope and uncertainty. Emma and Jason clung to each other as they navigated the stormy seas of decisions, no longer simply drifting, but taking the helm, determined to steer their boys toward brighter shores. After the initial consultation about the new treatment, they agreed to proceed cautiously, relying on the communication with the specialist, Dr. Matthews. Emma found hope in the doctor's thoroughness, every detail emphasizing the profound possibilities for Ethan and Liam. Finally, the day of the first procedure arrived. Emma stood in the hospital hallway, holding Ethan's tiny hand against her heart. She could feel his strength, a pulse that resonated with determination. Jason was right beside her, his presence a steadfast anchor as they prepared for yet another leap into uncertainty. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his brow knitted with worry. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "This is our best shot. We have to trust in this process, in what the doctors are doing." As they entered the operating room, Emma hugged Ethan tightly, whispering words of love and encouragement into his ear. "You're brave, my sweet boy. We're all here for you." She felt his warmth, a reminder that even in the face of the unknown, love would guide them through. Hours passed in slow agony. Emma and Jason waited, both replaying the moments of laughter and joy, each memory of their boys intertwining with hope for the future. They leaned on each other, every squeeze of their hands a vow of togetherness in the face of fear. Finally, Dr. Matthews appeared, his expression a mixture of seriousness and relief. "The procedure went well. We'll observe Ethan closely over the next few days. There might be some discomfort, but we will manage it." A wave of relief washed over Emma, only to be met with the lingering worry. "And Liam?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Boys like Ethan and Liam will need consistent support. Keep the therapies going. Keep talking to him. Let him know he's loved."
As days turned into a blur of monitors, smiles, and tender moments in the hospital room, Emma and Jason found themselves falling back into a rhythm of shared stories, laughter, and an unwavering belief in their boys. One evening, after a long day of physical therapy, Emma sat by Ethan's side, exhausted but filled with a deep, unyielding love. She leaned close and whispered, "You did such an amazing job today. You're my hero." Slowly, Ethan's eye twitched. A flicker. Was it real? Emma held her breath, waiting. Then, as if answering her, Ethan's thumb twitched slightly against her fingertip. Her heart soared. "Jason!" she cried out, her voice filled with a mixture of disbelief and joy. "Did you see that?" She looked at her husband, desperate to share the moment, to weave this fragile thread of hope into their reality. Jason turned, his eyes wide as he grasped Ethan's hand. "Buddy, can you do that again for us?" he asked, anticipation dancing behind his words. Ethan's fingers twitched again, smaller but unmistakable. Emma felt tears streaming down her cheeks, the weight of their journey lightening just a bit in this moment of triumph. "You're coming back to us," she whispered, knowing deep down that the battle was far from over, but for this moment they had made undeniable progress. As they shared in the joy of Ethan's small victory, Emma realized how far they had come together. All that had once felt futile now surged forward, fueled by hope. They weren't just a family facing a crisis anymore. They were a family that had rediscovered their strength. Days passed, each filled with little triumphs as both twins responded to the therapies. Emma laughed until her sides hurt at Jason's ridiculous attempts to elicit smiles from Liam. Their bond had deepened, wrapped in layers of resilience and a fierce sense of protection. One night, after the boys had settled down, Emma and Jason curled up together in a nearby armchair. Emma tilted her head against Jason's shoulder. "We've been through so much, haven't we?" "Yeah," he said, a pensive look filling his eyes. "But I wouldn't change it. We've been able to see the strength in our boys, and each other." Maybe that's what this was all about, she reflected, realizing that life isn't just about the surface. It's about digging deeper. We've dinged each other in ways I never thought possible.
The days ticked by, hope blossoming like spring flowers after winter's chill. And on a particularly bright morning, a nurse entered with a sunny smile. "We have some exciting news. The therapy is showing remarkable results. We want to introduce a communication device for Ethan. This could help him express himself more easily." "But is it really true?" Emma's heart raced with excitement. Jason squeezed her hand, grounding her in this potential reality. "Yes, it's just the beginning, but it could be life-changing."
He can learn how to interact more, convey his thoughts. The nurse spoke enthusiastically, her energy contagious. Through every twist and turn, Emma and Jason had learned that hope, no matter how small, could ignite a fire capable of illuminating even the darkest paths. It wasn't just about the treatments. It was about love, determination, and the relentless human spirit. With renewed strength, they faced each day with hope. They had fought against despair and emerged as a family forged in the fires of uncertainty. And as the sun poured through the window, illuminating Ethan and Liam, Emma knew they were just beginning to write their story, a story of strength, resilience, and the transformative power of love. Together, they had conquered mountains, and for the first time, the horizon looked bright, a promise of new beginnings and endless possibilities. Now it was time to share this journey, to reflect not only on the struggles, but on the triumphs. If you've followed Emma, Jason, Ethan, and Liam's journey, you need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories. Leave a like now to show your support and feed the algorithm that brings these stories to life. Comment below your feelings and reactions about their incredible transformation. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of hope and resilience. This is the moment to show you care about real-life stories and transformations. Each action you take helps spread this inspiring tale.